But a couple of the things there I think you'll find really, really helpful. So I'm going to share my screen. And Molly, if you can just give me a heads up if you all can see.
Yeah, that looks great. I
Okay.
can see it. I can see the website.
So next week, we'll be hosting our Apply to Graduate School campaign. So basically, it's designed to get our undergraduate students thinking about graduate school and provide them with information sessions to guide you in the application process throughout the span of a single week. So a couple of you are already ahead of the curve. So some of these sessions won't necessarily apply to you. Monday, we'll be going over a program information session. So kind of getting students acquainted with what programs we offer here at CSUSB at the graduate level and what might be of interest to them. Obviously, if you're in this session, you already know that MBA is kind of where your interest lies. So that might not be as relevant for you. But we are offering one on Tuesday, the 26th. That's going to be specifically going over funding opportunities for graduate school, especially outside of loans, which I think we can all appreciate. Nobody wants to graduate with a bunch of student debt. So that might be something worth you're checking into. I'm going to be going over your personal statement today. So the one on Wednesday regarding personal statement may not be as relevant for you since you're already getting that information today. But if you are wanting to also explore how to request letters of recommendation, that one will have the letters of recommendation component as well. And then Thursday, we'll be having an application information session, which will function a lot like what we're going to do today with April. So again, may not be as applicable to you since you're already getting that information today, but Friday we'll have a university resource info session. So you, especially for those of you who may not be our current undergraduate students, if you're joining us completely off campus and may not be as familiar with CSUSB, we can let you know what resources and departments are available to assist our graduate students, whether it's in their writing or on the, from a social component or, from a research component or something along those lines. So I'm going to put that into the chat later on after the presentation. So that way you guys can have that information if any of those are of interest to you. And it looks like Molly already did. So thanks, Molly.
You're welcome.
So I'm also going to put into the chat, this is the prompt that is currently being asked from the MBA program in regards to a personal statement. So we're looking at, the MBA program is looking for a personal statement that speaks to your academic motivation and personal qualifications demonstrated through submission of a 200 to 250 word statement of reasons for wishing to pursue the MBA at CSUSB and any personal qualifications that will contribute to the successful completion of the program. So that's just to kind of start us off and give you an idea of what exactly they are looking for. So when we go throughout the presentation, I'll sort of reference this prompt so that way you guys can get an idea of, how my tips fit in with this. I'm going to turn I have an air purifier in my office and it just kicked on high. So something made it mad. So I'm going to quiet it down really quick. No. Okay. Can everybody see the screen where it should be talking about writing your personal statement?
Yep, I can see it. It looks good.
Okay. Sounds good. So writing your personal statement, starting off with a kind of definitive slide of what is a personal statement and why does it matter to your application? So basically it's a piece of writing that describes who you are, why you're pursuing this application, and how CSUSB can help you in your educational and professional goals. Not everybody loves writing. Not everybody is, writing isn't everyone's most favorite task in the world. So I've seen a lot of students put off writing their personal statement because they're like, I just don't like writing. It's not my thing. But I really encourage students to kind of view the personal statement in a positive light because it's your moment of freedom in the application within reason to insert your own narrative as an accompaniment to your online application and transcripts or any test scores. A lot of your application is just kind of boilerplate, fill in the blank information. So it doesn't really allow a whole lot of you to come through on those questions. but this is kind of your opportunity to do that. So even if writing isn't your most favorite task, I would encourage you to be excited about writing your personal statement. So it can fall into two categories depending on the program you're applying to. Some programs ask for something pretty general and comprehensive, like we saw with the MBA prompt. It's not giving you necessarily a list of questions that says, okay, I want 200 words speaking to this. I want 300 words about that, which we do have some programs that fall into that camp. So yours will be a little bit more of a general comprehensive personal statement. Some people love that because they are like, okay, I can kind of tell my story how I best see fit. Other people like a little bit more structure. So those are kind of just two of the types of personal statements I've seen being asked by our various programs. So to talk a little bit about how to format your personal statement, I always say to break it down into three parts. The first one being talking about yourself as an introduction. You can even just use it, a kind of a boilerplate first line if that helps you kind of get your creative juices flowing just by stating your name and what program you're applying to here at CSUSB. And it says, this is where you can talk about your educational background, any relevant professional experience, which I think would be, specifically pertinent for anybody applying for the MBA, any kind of philanthropic work. Maybe you were in a sorority or fraternity in college, or you graduated with honors, or you were on the dean's list. That's where you're going to start talking a little bit about those kind of like highlight reels. You can also include anything about if you have a GPA that does not meet what the MBA program is looking for, but it does meet the standard for university admission. That might be something to bring up in your personal statement if you want to address that. It's not recommended, or it's not required, and it's not even necessarily recommended. It's just that I've had students ask me in the past, like, hey, I want to talk about this. I had a really tough semester junior year. I was in the process of switching my major. So I got a couple of grades that weren't my best. Can I talk about that a little bit, and where can I do so? So I tell students to be leery and to treat this, with care. But if that's something that you're looking for, this is where I found it has fit the best. So referencing the prompt again, when the prompt asks for any personal qualifications that would contribute to the successful completion of this program, this would be a good place to sort of address that part of the prompt, because you're talking about like, hey, this is, maybe you have some sort of professional development that you've done in the past, or some sort of award that you've gotten at work, or you graduated with honors, or something along those lines that you think would make you a competitive candidate for the MBA program can be included in this section. The next section, I always tell students, your personal statement isn't necessarily just about highlighting why you are a good fit for their program, but it's also good for you to highlight why this program is a good fit for you, because that's going to be equally important if they choose to admit you into their department, because ultimately they want you to be able to go on and graduate and do great things and, really take the teachings from the program and incorporate that into your desired professional field. And you can't do that if the program that you are applying to or that you've been accepted for isn't going to offer you the support that you feel like you need to succeed. And in order to make sure that that is the case, you need to make sure you've done your homework into making sure that this program has those aspects that you're looking for. Especially since the MBA program is, or to get there are a lot of schools that you can get an MBA at, right? You're not exactly looking for a, bachelor's degree in botany or, I don't know, some sort of crazy interdisciplinary combination of programs that is, like, oh, there's the one school in the Western Hemisphere that would offer that particular program. An MBA is fairly popular. I think that CSUSB is a great option for an MBA, and we've been highly lauded for our MBA program. But what resources and faculty and student support does our MBA program specifically offer that you feel like would encourage success in your education? How do you plan to be involved in the department in regards to any of their events or programming or research or employment? I know that they offer a lot of really great centers in the Jack H. Brown College. Maybe you reference one of those as like, hey, that I think that is going to be something that is going to be helpful to me in my program. And so that's why I'm drawn to this campus. Or maybe I'm pretty sure the MBA program does their passport program to encourage engagement with their MBA students on campus in terms of making sure that you're going to X amount of events or, department, programming to make sure that you are, being able to network and market yourself and things like that. So maybe you like that accountability approach. Basically, it's the time to show that you've done your homework and researching why this program specifically would fit your needs to succeed as a graduate student. Good places to find this information could be their department website. I also know, I believe that Kristen is out of the office for the time being, if I'm not mistaken, but I know that obviously you have access to Molly here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to kind of like, hey, tell me about this program, or if you have questions, or I'm not sure, is DeLauren still in there as well, Molly?
Yes. Yeah. DeLauren West is our dedicated MBA student advisor, but I am happy to talk to any prospective students and answer any questions. I'll actually put the link to make a virtual one-on-one appointment with me in the chat if that's something of interest to you. So anyway, side note. So thanks, Megan.
Yes. And then also, I always tell students, a really great, often unused tool that you can use to kind of research different programs is to look at the faculty bios of the faculty that are teaching in that program. Because maybe you want to go for an MBA to, do a particular project in a particular field of some kind. I won't pretend to know, what the different research interests in the MBA department are. But if you're like, okay, I'm specifically looking for, international supply chain, management with an emphasis in marketing. I have no idea if that's actually a thing, but if you were to look at the faculty bios that are published on our campus directory, you can see if any of the faculty members are doing work in that field. So that's a really great resource to use as well. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat too to make sure if there's any questions, but I think we're still good.
I'll keep an eye on the chat for you as well.
Okay. And then I always say for the last section, it should be your shortest one, but that basically is like a nice little end cap to, advise, just to give the program a little bit of a inclination of what you want to do with this degree professionally or how it fits into your educational journey. It doesn't have to be ironclad or terribly specific, but maybe this is a stepping stone for you to get a PhD. Maybe you're already in the field that you want to be in professionally, but you need to get an MBA to qualify for higher ranking or higher pay, or to take on more specialized projects. Maybe you're doing a career shift and you know that getting an MBA would allow you to do that. Just like one or two sentences that says, here's why I'm doing this, and basically that can kind of serve as a herring for the department to say, okay, they have some kind of motivation to complete this degree. It's not just something they've pulled out of a hat. It's not just something that they're like, oh yeah, I guess I'll get an MBA. Why not? It just shows that you've got some sort of plan and motivation for how to complete the degree. And I say that kind of shortly because if you go back to that chat where it has the prompt, I'll draw your attention again to the fact that the MBA asks for something pretty succinct. 200 and 250 words is not a whole lot of, writing real estate to get all of this across. So keeping each section to 2 to 3 sentences is probably going to be your best bet in making sure that you address every part of the prompt, giving them a good, indication of who you are as an applicant without going over what they've asked you to stick to as far as that prompt goes. Okay, so I'm going to offer you a couple of tips for writing a personal statement. Make sure that you're answering all the questions that are asked, even for this prompt for MBA, even though those are pretty general. right? So going back to that prompt, it's saying that they want to know why you're pursuing this degree. So that kind of floats back into that third part that I had mentioned, you know, what is your motivation to complete the degree, and then any personal qualifications that you think that would contribute to the successful completion of the program. Those are, again, they're not asking for a ton of information, but it's going to be important that, especially since they're not asking for a ton, you make sure you address every single part. So that way they're like, hey, I asked you specifically about what personal qualifications you have for this program and you chose not to do that, and that might count against you in the review process. So make sure you're answering all the questions that are asked. If you are applying to multiple programs, multiple graduate programs, make sure that each of your personal statements are tailored to that particular program. Make sure you're showing familiarity with the program that you're applying to and that you've researched their department thoroughly. You don't want anything too cookie cutter, like, oh, okay, clearly they went on Google and just typed in example of MBA program, downloaded it, switched out the name, switched out the school titles, and then sent it to 10 different schools. Worst case scenario, that's called plagiarism. And that's not how you want to be starting off your graduate school career. But also, you know, that's not giving them an indication of who you are as an applicant. So let's say the MBA has 10 spots to offer and they get 100 applicants, and, you know, your personal statement that you've, you know, copied off the internet is sounding eerily similar to a couple other students, but there's another student that clearly put a lot of time and effort into their personal statement, and the reviews are like, wow, I really get a good sense of who that person is as a student. They'll likely be more inclined to offer a position to that student because they felt like, you know, they really took the time to write a dedicated, exclusively tailored personal statement. If writing is not your most favorite task, make sure that you budget even more time to write your personal statement, because you want to make sure that you're using graduate level writing. You want to make sure you're giving yourself time to proofread it for grammatical and syntax errors. I have several degrees in English, and to this day, I still, especially if I'm submitting an important piece of writing, I take the time to read it out loud, because that, to me, it's easier for my ear to catch things that are like, oh, that doesn't sound quite right, or I missed a word there, or I repeated myself over here. So that can kind of be cleaned up a little bit. Give yourself that time. You know, I know that as humans, I think in general, when we don't want to do something, we tend to put it off, like, okay, I'll deal with that later. You know, but for something as important as this, you almost want to put it more to the forefront of your to-do list. That way you have the time to really put your best foot forward. Especially for this program, since again, you don't have a whole lot of writing real estate to play with. A standard personal statement is 1 to 2 pages. That's the norm for most programs here at CSUSB. Again, we've already covered that that the MBA is asking for something a little bit shorter. So especially for this program, don't waste a whole lot of words talking about, you know, I don't know, like if you knew you wanted to get an MBA as a second grader because you knew a teacher who read you this book, who talked about this, you know, fable or something, and then she told you, hey, you should get an MBA degree, and that's where your dream of getting an MBA came from. Like, that might be a really great story, but you might not have the space to really go into something as specific as that. So you really need to make sure that you're being mindful of the parameters that the program has set for you. So especially since you only have 200 to 250 words, making sure that you're using that allotment of space to your best advantage without going too far off the rails is going to be important. Avoid any kind of like cliches or like tired and repeated statements that you can find in almost any MBA personal statement that you could find off the web. You know, again, that kind of goes back to, we're just make sure that whatever personal statement that you submit is specific to you. If it sounds too cookie cutter, or if it sounds, you know, like it's been said a million times in a million personal statements, it probably has. So just kind of making sure that you're taking the time to make sure it's exclusive to you is important. A couple of resources to help you. I know Molly has already included herself in that list of options for extra help. I do offer one-on-one appointments on a based on my scheduling availability. If you would like me to help you review your completed personal statement for any kind of like grammatical or formatting issues, I can't help you write the personal statement, but I can help you review it. Just kind of being transparent, my schedule for the next 2 weeks is going to be a little bit intense. We've got programming coming up next week, like I mentioned in the beginning of our session. We've got another week-long set of programming following directly after. So depending on when you are ready for an appointment and you would like to meet with me, email me at least 10 days prior to your application submission deadline and at least 5 business days before you want to meet. Again, I don't know that I would have much availability until probably the week of May 9th. That's when my schedule gets a little bit more flexible. But again, this is something that I kind of offer as like a, added incentive from the Office of Graduate Studies, but my main focus is on programming. So just kind of keep that in mind. We also have a graduate writing center on campus who has graciously offered to review personal statements for graduate student applicants. Even if you're not currently attending CSUSB, as long as you're submitting an application for CSUSB and the personal statement that you're asking them to review is for a CSUSB program, they have agreed to review those statements. They have a team of writing coaches and their hours are a little bit more flexible than mine. I believe it's Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on Fridays. And they have appointments in person, via Zoom, telephone, or even email appointments. So if you absolutely need to get in to see somebody ASAP and I'm not available, that's a really good option to explore as well. And then, Molly has already put her information in here. So that's a really good example of, go to your graduate program that you're interested in if you have questions or need some guidance. So feel free to make an appointment with Molly and ask her like, hey, is this part of, if you need clarification on one of the some part of your application, or if you have questions for her, utilize her as a resource. So that way you can, through the application process, as easily as possible. So I think there are some students that get a little bit nervous about contacting the grad program, like thinking like, oh, that's going to count against me in some way for my application. But I can assure you that's not the case. So I would absolutely take advantage of the help that the MBA office is offering you. And the really great thing about MBA is that their program coordinator, as well as their, outreach specialist for Molly, they're full-time staff. So they're a little bit easier to get in contact with. Some of our other programs are, their coordinators are faculty members. So right now they're in the midst of making sure that their current students are still, getting them through the end of spring semester. And then when summer comes, they might not be on contract then. So because you're interested in the MBA program and you have that easy access to their office, I really encourage you to use it.
Yes, I would be more than happy to connect with you. Again, I will put my link to schedule an appointment with me, as well as my email in the chat box. We are a dedicated staff just for the MBA program. So we are more than happy to connect with you. Thank you so much, Megan.
Of course. And I see April is in the room, but before I hand it over to her, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll still be here throughout the rest of the session. So if any questions come up, please let me know. And I will turn it over to my colleague, April Lane, who's going to go over our application process.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was a little bit late. Can you all see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. And thank you, Megan, for providing all that helpful information. I do want to let you all know, I don't know if it was mentioned at the beginning of the workshop, but we will be sending out a a survey at the conclusion of the workshop. It would take you maybe a minute at most to fill out. Everyone that does complete the workshop satisfaction survey will go into an opportunity drawing for a Cal State Apply fee waiver, which is a $70 value. We do really appreciate your feedback. It allows us to offer workshops that are helpful and informative. So if you could take a moment just at the end of the workshop to complete that survey. I know, Molly, you have it in that document.
I will add it.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, got a lot of things going on my screen right now, but we're going to just go jump right in because I want to be mindful of everyone's time. But right here from the Graduate Studies website, you can see this green button, which will take you directly to the Cal State Apply application. So once you land on this page, now just keep in mind that this is a system-wide application for all different class levels. So you want to make sure that just to keep in mind, this workshop is specific to Cal State San Bernardino and the MBA program. So, but a lot of this information you can go ahead and bypass because as you can see, it's for undergraduate students. So you're going to come right down here and select the term you want to apply for. Right now, the program's accepting applications for fall 2022. Fall 2022 fall applications always open on October 1st. Spring applications open on August 1st. So just keeping that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the application. Now, if you've not been in here before, you're going to have to go ahead and create your account, which is probably, you know, something we've all done multiple times. So I'm not going to spend too much really any time on that. But I have my username and password saved. I do recommend making a note of it anyway. If you do come into the office for some assistance, which we're happy to provide for you, it is important to know to remember your username and password. It just makes it a little bit easier to get into your account from anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got this saved. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Now, the first time you sign in here, it is going to look a little bit different. You're going to need to set up your profile and I believe you set up your profile when you're creating your account, but you're going to need to set up what's called your extended profile as well. So I just came up here, my applicant, name is Cody Coyote, which is our mascot. And I'm just going to come right down here. Your extended profile is actually going to show the program that you want to apply to. So the more you filter this down, the fewer programs you'll see. But we know that we're wanting to apply to the MBA program. So I'm making sure that I have second bachelor's degree and beyond selected. And then I have graduate selected. Now this is going to filter down to all of our master's programs for a master's degree. And then I'm going to scroll on down here to returning. This isn't what it seems like it's asking. It's actually asking if you're coming back to complete the same degree. I don't know anyone that's done that. So don't select yes. If you do, you are not going to be able to see all the programs that are available. So make sure you select no. You'll complete your U.S. military status. And then if you're an international applicant, you would select yes, if not no, and then complete the questions that pop up based on your response. So if you're in the application and you're not finding what you're looking for, this is always where I first suggest that you come and check just to make sure that this is all filled out. It's going to filter out the programs that you want that will make them visible. The first time you come in here, you're going to actually have to select your program. So it's going to look a little bit different. But right now, if we just scroll down, you're going to see a list of every CSU, which is starting with Bakersfield. But we want to make sure we're going to select, filter it down even more. So you can see I already have some pre-filled in there. But if I start typing San Bernardino, that's just going to show San Bernardino. And then I'm going to go ahead and just San Bernardino, and then BUS is going to pull up all of the business programs, the MBA programs at Cal State San Bernardino. So you can see all the different concentrations that are offered. I already have an application selected for the Business Administration Management program. If I wanted to change to another one, I would just check one of these plus marks. But once I select a program, I'm going to have this green check here. It's going to have the program, the term, the campus, and the application deadline. So this program has a fairly far out deadline going all the way into July, but I always recommend get your application submitted as soon as you possibly can, just to make sure that you're getting that off of your mind, but don't rush through it because you do want to make sure it's complete.
If I might add, if you are an international applicant, we especially suggest that you try to get your application in as soon as possible, preferably a month before the deadline listed on this electronic application, just to allow for some time for you to obtain your visa and other international documents.
It's a really good point. So yes. So now that I've selected my program, this is how I'm going to navigate through. My application will always be viewable here. And again, this is my San Bernardino, Cal State San Bernardino application. If I had multiple applications to different campuses, you would see that in the program materials section. And I'm going to go through this section by section. So we'll get to every one of these sections before 1 o'clock. So once I'm on my application, all 4 of these sections are going to need to be completed before you're able to submit your application up here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the personal information because this is information that should basically be fairly straightforward because it's completing your own personal information. But I do want to touch on the financial and parental information section. I do get a lot of questions about this. And you're going to hear me say this several times throughout the application. The Cal State Apply application is a CSU system-wide multiple class level program level application. So not everything on here is going to apply to graduate students. This is one of those times. Our undergraduate applications are actually allowed to apply for a need-based Cal State Apply fee waiver right in the application. Unfortunately, after you've completed your undergrad, when you're completing this application as a post-baccalaureate or a master's student, you're no longer able to request the need-based fee waiver here in the application. But it's still a required field. Anything with an asterisk has to be completed in order to submit the application. So really the only thing that this is used for is determining undergraduate applicant financial need for a fee waiver. So therefore, you're just going to want to go through and complete this to the best of your ability. No need to dig out any kind of financial records or any kind of information like that. Use your best estimate. So I have an example here of a total size household of 3 with 0 income. And just the information about the parent or guardian education level. This is not going to be used for any kind of financial aid awards, eligibility, loans, none of that. It's just used for need-based fee waiver for undergraduate students. So just fill it out to the best of your ability and then complete that. All right, so it bounced me right over to the second section. But once you complete all 7 sections of the personal information, you'll see that this circle will be green with the check mark of white. Any questions on personal information before I go into academic history? Okay. Oh, I do see some things in the chat. Let's see. Oh, okay, these are just comments. All right, let me scoot that over. All right, so moving into academic history, there's 3 sections in here that will need to be completed. Now, because I do these workshops often, I have applications in various stages of completion. So the first section is colleges attended. You'll add your schools here. I already have a couple of schools added. If you're an alumni or will be an alumni of Cal State San Bernardino, don't forget to add that. So in this particular example, our applicant Coyote started at Cal State San Bernardino in August of 04 and finished in May of 09 and received their Bachelor's of Arts degree. Then Cody went on to Chaffey College just for some classes of interest, just took some classes for fun and included that school as well. Because when you come up here, the instructions indicate report all colleges and institutions attended regardless of their relevance to the programs you're applying to and whether the coursework completed there was already transferred to another institution. Well, that is what's asked for on here. But my recommendation, we want to make sure that the degree where you received your bachelor, the school where you received your bachelor's degree is included. Any school that you transferred coursework from into your bachelor's degree, include that. And any school that you attended after receiving your bachelor's degree. So those are definitely the 3 schools, if applicable, that you'll want to include. Now, if you just went to, I'll just say Valley College and you took a weight training class, but it wasn't degree applicable and it wasn't your last school attended, I wouldn't necessarily worry about including that. So just make sure that you're including any transfer coursework, the school where you got your bachelor's degree, and your last institution attended. And if you went anywhere and got graduate level coursework that you can apply to your program, you'll want to make sure that you include that too. So any questions about colleges attended before I move on to these next 2 sections? Molly, did you have anything to include, any tips for the MBA application?
We are just to reiterate what you said, we are just mainly looking for the bachelor's degree information. And then if you do have any postgraduate work, we really would like to see that as well. So yeah, just wanted to add that in there.
Okay, awesome. So now for this section, standardized tests, and it's going to apply to GPA entries as well. The first time you click here, you are going to see, I believe the page is going to look like this. It changes once you click on it for the first time. So it always looks different after my first workshop of the year. You're going to have a box here that says, I'm not adding any standardized test scores or any standardized tests. So as a graduate applicant, go ahead and select that you're not adding any standardized tests. The reason for this is what I said you're going to hear multiple times. This is a system-wide application. It's used for undergraduates as well as graduate students, and undergraduate applicants are often admitted on self-reported information. So adding standardized test scores here would be considered self-reported information. But as a graduate student, you do not need to add any test scores here. You can opt out. And then if you do have any test scores that you want to include with your application, there'll be a section in the program materials box that you can include those test scores. So all you have to do here is opt out and it will check that section. That goes as well for the GPA entries. The first time you come here, if you have more than one school, any school that you put in here is going to be grayed out like this. This is an example of what happens after I go in and add my GPA, which I'm not going to do because once again, putting a GPA in here is considered self-reported information. So we're not going to admit you based on self-reported information. We're going to review your application and potentially admit you based on your transcripts. They'll be unofficial, but you'll be uploading and submitting transcripts. So all you have to do here is for any school that you included is click here on this add GPA box. And now it'll pop up with, okay, great, now let's add a GPA. All you have to do is indicate, I don't have a GPA to add. Do that for any school that you included here. And once all of these are done, you'll see that this section's now complete and you'll have completed this section of the application. Any questions? I usually get a question or two on standardized tests or GPA entries because I'm telling you guys not to do something and people get a little weirded out. It's okay. It's really okay.
Thank you for sharing that, April, because I get that question as well.
I know, because it just seems so wrong to just not do something. It's like, it's okay.
Yes.
We have a reason for why we're telling you this.
Exactly. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us and ask those. We're more than happy to answer them.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. So for supporting information, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Molly, because I know there are a couple of programs, but I don't believe your program asks for experiences here.
That is correct. We do not ask for experiences.
Okay, perfect. So this is another place that the first time you click in here, you'll see a box that you can opt out of adding an experience. And that section's then done. So finally, the application is this program material section. Now, before you begin completing this, make sure that you're applying to the program that you want to apply to, because if you start completing the program material section, and then you decide later to change your program, because this is specific to this application and concentration, it will wipe out everything. If say I went in and it's like, oh, I didn't want to do MBA, I wanted to do MPA. And if I go in and add the program, it will remove the MBA application and replace it with MPA that has different program requirements and documents. So make sure that you're applying to the program that you want to apply to. And the deadlines here, the program, and then this information, you'll see DeLauren's contact information. Kirsten, who's not available right now, but I guess she's out of the office, but then Molly's here to help you as well.
Absolutely, yes. And again, I'll put my information in the chat.
Okay, awesome. So there's 3 tabs that will need to have information in them completed. This first one is basically, it's you acknowledging that we're going to go ahead and review your application based on your unofficial transcripts. You'll be able to have your application reviewed. You could potentially be admitted, and you can even register for fall classes, all based on your unofficial transcripts. But you'll need to make sure to get those official transcripts to us. Once you've made that decision, you're coming to Cal State San Bernardino, to get us those official transcripts by July 29th. My recommendation, don't wait until the last minute. Once you're admitted, you know you're coming, go ahead and get us those transcripts, because even though we live in this world, like you submit a document and you think, okay, yeah, it should be received now, there's human intervention involved. And when we have several thousand transcripts coming in, there can be a bit of a backlog. So you probably could have read this faster than I just explained that. So you'll just want to make sure that you're going to, oops, come on, click in there, that you're going to initial that. This next question is the MBA interview, that you're going to have to make that interview appointment by emailing mba@csusb.edu to make that appointment. And the last section here that you'll need to complete is that you are confirming that you're stating that you need, that all of this information has to be completed. And all of this the documentation included as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And now that's going to have saved. That's going to save this first tab. So you only, excuse me, you only have 2 more tabs to go. So in the document section of the application, there's some information that you'll want to read through, including the information about the personal statement, which, like Megan was saying, 200 to 250 words is not many words. I used to worry about, like, if I had a 10-page paper due, yeah, no, that's so much easier sometimes than writing a short statement.
Absolutely. And just a side note about that, April, if I may, We actually allow up to 500 words if you feel as though you really want to add some additional wording to express yourself more. So I did want to just mention that.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, so it basically,
Hey, oh,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, Molly, if that's the case, if you do allow them to do up to 500 and you want that publicized on our website, if you want to email Chris, he can update that for you so that way on our website it says up to 500. But unless that's just something that is like a case by case basis, but if you want that known to all of your applicants, he can update our website for you.
I will definitely do that. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, and I don't believe they can update it in the application. There's only certain times that you can go in and update it, but definitely if you want to include that on the website.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so basically an overview of the information for this application, letters of recommendation, there is one letter of recommendation required, and you can either submit an official letter of recommendation on letterhead or the letter of recommendation form. You'll need to have, as I initialed, or you would be initialing in that first tab, is setting up the interview. They have information about their testing requirements and GPA requirements. And then the English proficiency for international students. And Molly and the program can definitely assist you with any questions you might have about these portions of the application.
Absolutely.
And then this is what I was just mentioning about unofficial transcripts. Everybody's going to have an unofficial transcript from the undergraduate institution where they received their degree. You may also have transfer coursework. You may have any post-baccalaureate coursework, and you may have an unofficial transcript from your last college or university attended. So when you scroll down here, you'll be able to see the upload slot for each section of what was mentioned up further up the page. So you'll have an upload slot for your personal statement, your CV, your resume will go in here. You'll need to upload at least one unofficial transcript. But if you are a current CSUSB student or you graduated from CSUSB and you haven't attended anywhere else since then, all you have to do, because we have your transcripts on file, so there's no need to go get an unofficial transcripts, upload it, and then add it to the application. Actually, a lot of people try that, and for some reason, the PDF files are not cooperative. So the easy workaround, that if CSUSB was your last institution attended, or you're currently attending and will be graduating from CSUSB, upload a document that says my transcripts are already on file. And if you know or remember your Coyote ID number, go ahead and include it on that document and just upload it here. The system won't recognize that you're not uploading an unofficial transcript. It will just take whatever document you're putting in here. So that kind of serves as a placeholder. There's some additional upload sections for any additional unofficial transcripts that you have. If you have a test score report, you can upload it here. Now, if you have something that you want to include, and Molly, let me know if this is okay with you. Say you have some kind of a certification or acknowledgement for some really great work you did that would be applicable to helping you stand out as an applicant, you can name the file and upload it in one of these additional slots.
Yes, absolutely. And also a note, sometimes applicants have trouble uploading documents. Just so you know, you can actually send those documents to the MBA program if you're having difficulty uploading that document, and we'll be happy to upload it to your electronic application for you. So I'm going to include the email address you can send those to. Otherwise, if you're able to upload those, please do so in your application, but we're here to help.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and just know that in order to submit the application, these required documents are the only 3 items that that you'll need to upload. You'll have to have something in each one of these spots. So anything with a red asterisk does need to be completed. So if the MBA office is not able to assist you in tech, because we can only go so far technically into the application, down here at the very bottom of the page is a link to the Cal State Apply Help Center, and the contact information for them, and also the phone number if you need some technical assistance with your application. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's always down here at the bottom. If you're an international applicant, you will need to complete, sign, and submit the FERPA release form. And here's the link where you can get that, complete it, and then upload it here to the application. Any questions about documents before I move on to the last section for the recommendations? It looks like
April, I just wanted to highlight one more time that I appreciate what you said about technical assistance, because that is not something that we are able to do to assist with technical assistance on the electronic application. So please do keep in mind that that's the phone number. You do have that contact information that you can call them and request help, and they should be able to help you if you're having technical difficulties.
And if you click on Help Center, it will take you right to this page. All right. And then last but not least on the application is the recommendations. So for this particular program, 1 recommendation is required, but you can actually submit up to 2. I do a requesting letters of recommendation workshop, and I usually get the question of, well, can I send more? And that's kind of I always say maybe 1 more than is required, but please don't bombard the application reviewers with 4, 5, 6 letters. I'm sure they appreciate it, and I'm sure you have outstanding letters of recommendation, but they're reviewing many applications. So stick with what's required and maybe 1 additional. So for this program, they have the official letter of recommendation form, let's see. And so I'm a little bit, let me just confirm with you, Molly. So are they sending this letter of recommendation form to their recommenders through here?
So actually, they do need to click on the request general program with letter upload. They do need to fill that out. There is an optional letter of recommendation form but they will need to submit that to our office to have uploaded to their electronic application. However, and that's what the form looks like right there. Exactly. Okay. But that will need to be sent to the MBA office in order to be uploaded to their application. Or they can go into the supporting documents, and if they have an additional entry available to them, then they can upload it there. However, in order to submit their application, they will need to send an email to either a professional or an academic source to request a letter of recommendation. I know this is a little bit confusing.
And
so
everyone is different. Every application's a little bit different.
Yes, feel free. Should you feel confused about this, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, but it is required that you send an email requesting a letter of recommendation as part of the application process, because you can see all the asterisks there.
Yeah, so this is required.
Yes, yeah.
So, but they're not copying and pasting that link into the personal message.
Correct.
Okay. So yes, so definitely they can assist you with that. But when you're completing, or Molly can assist you with that, when you're completing the letter upload recommendation request, and I'm just using Megan as my test person, you'll complete their first and last name, make sure that their email address is correct. because I've had a couple of recommenders make a couple of little comments about, well, they can't even get my email address right. And I'm like, okay, being a little punitive, but that's okay. Just make sure you get the email correct. I always say give your recommender as much time as possible. And if you ever attended my letters of recommendation workshops, you'll know that I say start early, but I would say you're safe, even if you're submitting right at the deadline, to give them at least 2 weeks. I'm just going to write thank you. And I know we're right at the top of the hour. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So if you select yes, you are waiving your right to view the letter. If you say no, you will be able to view what your recommender wrote. Given the option, I always say select yes. It shows a degree of confidence in what my recommender wrote. I know they're going to write something great. You're going to give permission. You'll need to contact the recommender, and permission for the schools to contact the recommender. And then you'll go ahead and save this recommendation request. So you can now see the status of it. Megan just received an email saying that I'm requesting that letter of recommendation for her. And in that document that I sent Molly, it's going to include who your recommender, the email, the subject, and who it came from. So they can, if it's anything like my email, there's a lot of emails in there, so they can sort and look for it that way. But say something happens and you're no longer able to get that letter of recommendation from that person, even after you submit your application, because the recommender doesn't have to respond before you submit. Once you request it, finish your application, and then wait for the recommendation to come in. It will match up. But if you need to request a new recommender, even after you submit, you can come in and request another one. So Megan just got an email saying that I no longer need her as a recommender.
And I did want to make a note that oftentimes this is what will hold up an application from being reviewed. It will not hold you up from submitting your application. So once you've made the request, you can then submit your application. We do not have to have received the letter of recommendation for the application to be submitted. However, if you do want your application reviewed, we do need to have that letter of recommendation. So I always recommend that you reach out to your recommenders and say, hey, can you please check your inbox? I'm going to have an email coming to you, and just be proactive. And we always recommend sending out at least 2 or 3 requests because, you know, sometimes people are busy and they don't have time to do it. And so it's always better to make a couple of additional requests so that you get at least that one required letter of recommendation.
And I think Megan shared right when I popped into the workshop this afternoon, Megan was sharing the events coming up at the Apply to Grad School campaign. And I'm doing requesting letters of recommendation workshops with some tips and advice of what to do and what not to do. There's still plenty of time given the application deadline. So once you're ready to submit, and you can come back in even after you've submitted, you can edit your recommenders. So don't worry about that. You know, it usually things are fixable. So even after you submit your application, you can definitely do that. When you're ready to submit and all of those red asterisks are completed, this button will open up and you'll be able to go in and submit. And once again, if you complete that workshop satisfaction survey, you'll go into an opportunity drawing for a Cal State Apply fee waiver. And good luck. And then once you submit your application, come here, check, make sure it's showing submitted status. Within about 3 to 5 business days, you'll get an email from the Office of Graduate Studies with your Coyote ID number and your campus email address. And then you can start looking for additional emails as your application moves through the process. All
Excellent.
right. So went over a couple minutes, but hopefully the information was helpful.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that survey one more time in the chat box, just in case you didn't catch it. Again, this is, you fill out the survey and it is for an opportunity drawing. You get to enter an opportunity drawing for a potential fee waiver here for your application. So thank you so much for doing that survey and opportunity drawing.
Absolutely. If you could complete it immediately following the workshop at a little bit later this afternoon, because we like to make sure that all your memories of the workshop are fresh. So once a little bit later this afternoon, I'm going to come in, access that survey, and I'll do that random drawing. And then if you are the lucky recipient, I will be reaching out to you by email later today to let you know what you need to do to redeem that code.
Great. Wow. Thank you so much, Megan and April. We really appreciate your insights into the application process and personal statements. Does anybody have any questions that they would like answered before we end today's workshop? I will follow up with you all with an email with some additional resources and links. So keep your eye on your email inbox for that. And again, thank you, April and Megan. So appreciate your time today. And thank you everyone for joining us.
It's our
Of
pleasure.
course.
You have a great day, everyone.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.